Hi you guys, this is Allison hanging out in my space to craft, and I just finished a 2-page layout, and I used Vicky Boutin paper, and I kind of messed up, so I have a bunch of scraps. I miscut. I was not thinking straight. But what I want to do is, of course, make a card. So these are the main scraps I have sitting out on my desk. I had this in my Vicky Boutin folder, so that's another one. I don't know that I'm going to use that today, though I love this floral. But what I think I'm going to do is use this instead of, a lot of times I use cardstock to mat, and I think I'm going to use this and I may not make it a full mat, but we'll see. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut a chunk of this, and I think I want to make sure I include this dark blue here, and I think I'll do that, and I might just make like a really large border. I kind of like that look sometimes, especially if I'm using a printed paper on the back. So I think maybe do that. And then I had pulled this out because I thought I might use it on the page, but I'm not going to. I didn't. But I like this vellum. Even on the striped paper, I think it might still look pretty good. But maybe I'll put it on another something. Maybe I like it better on a little bit of this, or I have this pink. So maybe I do double duty on the wood grain. Oh, but if I did that, then I wouldn't want the pink. I might pick a different color, maybe the navy. Yeah, I like that a lot. So this navy butterfly, and the sentiment. Also probably on here, because this green's not quite on that paper. So I think that's my plan. So let's make that happen. So first step is to cut my mats. So I am not measuring these. I'm just using a pencil mark to figure out where I want all of these, because I'm just doing it by the look I want rather than strict measurements. But you can easily do this by just doing 1/8 of an inch for each border, or 1/4 of an inch for each border, in which case you just keep reducing by 1/2 an inch. But sometimes this is just faster for me. So I'm liking that, and now I'm going to figure out how I want to handle this sort of salmon colored wood grain, and I'm going to make another rectangle, but leave an even bigger margin so that I can see plenty of the stripes, because I do like that striped paper. So I'm liking the look of that. Nice and graphic. And I am going to go for that blue and gold butterfly. So I get out my Creative Memories cutting system, figure out which circle will work for me, and I'm going to use the blue blade, which is the furthest away from the channel, and I just spend a little bit of time double checking that I'm going to get my full circle and I'm not cutting off any of the gold. making small adjustments, and it's time to cut. And it works great. Now, I do want to say I do mess up a little bit when I go to adhere this vellum down. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to figure out what I want to do for my sentiment. But heads up, I mess up. Real world scrapbooking, you guys. So I'm going to look through my sentiment bin. I don't find anything. I don't find what I want there. The blues weren't quite the right color. I didn't like the look of black on it. Some of these are pre-printed. Some are things that I have stamped and embossed and stuff like that. So if I were to use all these, I have to make a whole bunch of cards, obviously. But nothing really felt right to me on that card. And so I decide I will stamp and emboss. So I'm going to go find my stamps. So I pull out one of my May Made It stamp sets. So, and I also decide I will emboss it in gold, sort of bring out that gold. So pull out my stamping platform. And my Versamark. I also use a coffee filter. You can tell this is a well-loved coffee filter when I'm doing any glitter or embossing powder. Now, one thing I forget to do here, first of all, my stamp platform cover was the wrong way, is I forget to do the anti-static powder, the anti-embossing powder, which I should have done at this point before I emboss. And I forget. And here I'm like, oh, I forgot. That's when I realized. I'm like, well, I'll just go for it. And if I need to redo it, I'll redo it. So here's my gold powder. I did get some flecks on there that turned gold, but it's not bad. It's better than black on white, which you can really see. So I do try and clean these stamps before I put them away or let that Versamark, it's pretty sticky ink or substance, and so I do try to keep those clean and not let that stuff dry on it. I also decide I want to round all my corners just for something a little more interesting. I inked that just so you couldn't see the white core. So it was just to hide some of the white core that was showing. And then it's really just time to assemble. Now then, here's where I start to mess up. So I use liquid glue just where the butterfly is, but the vellum does not like the wet glue at all, and it does warp it a little bit. And then I make an even bigger mistake and decide that I need to take the heat gun to a little bit of the sentiment and it's a near disaster because it warps that vellum a little bit. The vellum does not like heat. And I knew that, so I'm trying to hold it out of the way. But you can see that did not work so well. And I have warped the vellum a little bit. So now I'm going to try and recover. So I'm going to pop it up on some foam adhesive. But again, I'm just going to try and stick to the butterfly where it won't show. Somewhat successful. And that way the warping can make it look like it's just dimension. And then part of that little white tear is showing, so now I have to try and fix that. It's just one disaster after another, you guys. So learn from my mistakes. Do not heat up your vellum unless it is heat-safe vellum. So it's not a perfect card, but it's still pretty cute. So now we're going to hopefully do some close-ups. I thought I was going to add some gold enamel dots, not enamel dots, but liquid pearls, but I didn't do it, I guess. So, not perfect, but you come here for the real world. Thanks a lot, you guys.